Well, that's it, folks. The World Series that the whole world was hoping to have is over. Yeah. And you know what? It was a bummer of a series. And not because the star power faded out, I mean, at least on one team, but it was because of the consistent inconsistency of the team in the other dugout. That's right, Aaron Boone. I'm directing this at your squad, the New York Yankees. And no, for anyone out there saying, oh, this came down to a fifth inning meltdown, it did not come down to a fifth inning meltdown. If anything, that fifth inning was a huge magnifying glass on the anthill that was the massive flaws, fielding flaws of the New York Yankees. But I'm directing this toward Aaron Boone. We can go back to game one. Game one, bases loaded. Hey, I have an idea. Let's put in the guy who hasn't pitched in a month. Let's throw him in there in this high profile situation. Now, I get it. He said, but hey, JB, they call him Nasty Nestor for a reason. Yeah, they do. They do. But you need to ramp up. You can't just be thrown in to the biggest moment. He's not a great ball player by any stretch. It's not as if they had a Justin Verlander or a Clayton Kershaw. Madison Bumgarner can be out for a whole season. You can throw him out there for one inning, and I guarantee you he's nailing it down because he's Madison Bumgarner. We've seen it. Nestor Cortez has had his struggles. Yes, he's been nasty when he's on, but he's also been nasty with the production that he's given up because he hasn't been on. Why not go with Mark Leiter Jr.? Mark Leiter's a great option. You can go with him. He's fine enough. I mean, it's your fault for using your closer so early in the game, like a jackwad. But, what can I expect from a man who's just sitting there watching Garrett Cole struggle through the fifth inning and he's just spitting sunflower seeds out? No emotion, no nothing. Just a man who's watching a ball game and forgetting that he's the manager of the ball club that's on the field. But let's not just blame it all on game one or on game five. This goes back to the beginning of the season in spring training when your team is supposed to be putting down the fundamentals of baseball. And yes, you can have 94 wins in a regular season. Winning covers a whole multitude of errors in the regular season. You know what doesn't cover a multitude of errors? Committing them on the biggest stage in Major League Baseball. When you do that in the regular season and you win 94 games, everyone can just be fine. We can be fine with 10-man Stanton rounding third base and making you can't even call that an attempt at a slide or even trying to get to home plate. You can do that in the regular season and everyone's like, "Oh, the Yankees. Well, at least they beat the Rays 17-3." You can't do that in the World Series. You just can't. You got away with it playing Cleveland because Cleveland's got an anemic offense. Their pitching was great. And luckily, you had the bottom half of the order plus a man named Stanton being able to jack the ball out the park. But when you get to the World Series, everything that you are bad at, and not just bad at every now and again, everything you are fundamentally bad at is going to show itself. And all of that falls on Aaron Boone. Congratulations to the Dodgers. $1 billion well spent. You brought a ring to Chavez Ravine in a season that no one can question that was earned and well earned. The resident Yankee fan is back, folks, and he's going to share with us his own fifth inning trauma. It's JB and Manny. Here we go with box scores and bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box scores
and bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball box scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box scores and bourbon.
All right, everybody. Well, like I said, World Series is over. It's done. What a wonderful time to waste my time in watching a series that I thought was going to be awesome and it was awful. But before we get to Manny's therapy session, let's go ahead and cheers our way in. Manny,
Cheers,
cheers,
JV.
brother.
Well,
Not on
I'm
the best of
happy to be back.
circumstances.
Yes, I'm happy to be back, even though the situation currently does not make me very happy.
So go ahead.
What can I say about the New York Yankees? I have nothing scripted, but there's so much to say. And ultimately, I feel like there's something that resonates in my mind when it came to the Yankees, which is the thing that I complained about them all regular season. And the reason that when we were making our playoff predictions, I couldn't get myself to pick the Yankees to win, not just because I didn't want an additional heartbreak. And then the World Series topped it off by again highlighting my concern with the Yankees. Their defense was atrocious. Their defense was atrocious throughout the regular season, and 100%. The reason that they lost the World Series was because of their defense. There's no if or buts about it. I'm not just talking about fifth inning, whatever you want to call that, or aneurysm that every single one of the defensive players had. It was visible regularly in all 4 games prior to that. There was balls that were getting right past the infielders. There was balls that are being dropped, miscues that you would never expect. And yes, the fifth inning highlighted that perfectly in a way that I just can't make sense out of it. Besides the fact that what you said uh, really wraps it up perfectly. You have to train this stuff out of your guys and your players since training camp, because if not, if you do have some sort of success, those small details are what are going to be highlighted on the biggest stage. It was
Mhm.
I've watched the fifth inning a lot. I keep seeing reruns all over the place, and it just every time I cringe, it just I don't understand. I don't understand what happened in that inning. There's no reason for me to make sense out of it because the effing stuff that they were doing was just like rookie baseball thing. If you
Yeah.
zoom in on like really the small pebble that started the fifth inning mistake, which was Aaron, not yeah, Aaron Judge
It was Aaron
dropping that
Judge. Yep.
that fly. Yeah, he dropped that fly out. If you zoom, there was a replay where they zoomed into his like him catching it, and you see him take his eyes away from the ball a
Mhm.
half a second before it hits his glove. And that's all it takes. Those are the little things that I'm sure you, JB, when you've coached your kids, and every coach that I've ever experienced yells at you nonstop. Your eyes are
Mhm.
on the ball throughout the entire process until you have it completely secured. It applies to baseball, basketball, football. It
Mhm.
is such a fundamental thing. And that just
Yeah.
highlighted what was the mistake that was really no reason to be happening in that situation. With you're up 5-0, you don't have to make anything impressive. If the guy's going to tag up and steal or tag up and take second, let him take second. You're up 5-0 with one out. Let him. Focus on the fundamentals, and the fundamentals would have gotten you the win. That is what frustrates me about the way that this series ended. It's not the fact that they lost 4-1. I'm glad it wasn't a sweep, because then that's just another storyline that would have added to the Dodgers' story this season. But it frustrates me that the reason that they lost is not because they got outplayed. There was really no outplaying of sorts. The Dodgers did every little thing right, and the Yankees
Mhm.
did all the little things wrong. And that's coming from a team where Shohei Ohtani wasn't even their best player, wasn't even close to their best player. All the other
Nope.
players did what mattered, and that is what frustrates me, because the Yankees couldn't do the same thing to keep pace with the Dodgers that were playing at the same level. They matched up really well. The small things ended up screwing the whole series up for them. And lastly, game 1, as you were mentioning, there's nothing about a series than a demoralizing win. And I had a feeling when that game 1 ended the way it did, it's hard to get your spirits going again when you lose a game in that fashion. When you have it in your hands, bottom of the 10th inning, 2 outs, 2 strikes, and it slips out of you. Something inside of most
Yeah.
players, unless you're at a next top tier greatness level, most players,
Mhm.
it takes a lot for them to recover from that kind of experience. And when I saw
Yeah.
that happen, I just had a feeling that it was going to be the beginning of a really crappy series for the Yankees. And then the next 4 games proved that to be right. So that's my soapbox. That is my moment to cry internally.
I don't blame you, man. And it wasn't just you let that one slip out of your hands in that fashion. You let that one slip out of your hands uh, in your opponent's backyard. When you
Hmm.
let that slip out in your opponent's backyard and you're already built up and you're like, oh, if we can win one, at least one of these two in
Yeah.
Chavez and go back to the Bronx, I mean, we got it locked up. We have
Hmm.
to believe we have it locked up. And and so,
Stealing
but
home field is the thing. If you steal home field advantage, you
Mhm.
put that team in a shitty situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what hurts the most about that Aaron Judge catch, and you're right, your eyes, whether I tell my ball players this all the time, either if you're at the bat, your eyes on the ball. If you're in the field, eyes on the ball. That's it.
Mhm.
Eyes on the ball, especially on defense, eyes on the ball, two hands. That's it. Two hands, close it in. What what hurts the most, and I think what is probably a a rabbit hole that most Yankee fans are are really trying hard not to go down right now is that last night Aaron Judge, something clicked for him at the plate last night.
Yeah.
And if the Yankees win last night, I told my wife, I said, look, there were 24 World Series before this one where a team took a 3-0 lead. 21 finished in sweeps, 3 finished in 5, none have gone to 6 or longer.
Hmm.
I told her, I said, if the Yankees win tonight, they will win this World Series. And it's because Aaron Judge figured it out.
Hmm.
Something finally clicked for him. And if he could get going, there's no telling what's going on. Because if he can get going, then you're not going to make a mistake to Aaron Judge for Jazz Chisholm. You're not going to make a mistake to Jazz Chisholm for Giancarlo Stanton. You're not going to do that.
Hmm.
That lineup became so much deeper when Judge figured it out.
Yeah.
And it just it that to me, if I'm a Yankee fan, and you spend all day and all night trying not to go down this rabbit hole, well, you're welcome. I'm welcoming you back into the rabbit hole.
He just made the entrance just a little bit bigger.
Just imagining. And that's all I thought about after the Yankees lost. I was like, if they would have won this game, I've heard people bash Anthony Rizzo for not getting to first. And I've had to remind people over and over again the assignment is simple. If the ball is hit deep on the first base side, the pitcher is supposed to cover first. I don't know what Garrett Cole was thinking. I don't know if
I don't
if
know.
if he runs to first, he gets out of that inning giving up only one run. That's it. One run. One. One. Not five. One. And none of them were earned. All of them happened after 2 outs. It's just it's it was just I could not believe my eyes
Yeah.
what I was watching.
Yep.
And hats off to Garrett Cole for being able to last that fifth inning and then almost get through seven. I don't know what Aaron Boone's thinking. He let the man finish 7 innings. Let him. I get that the only hard contact all night off of Garrett Cole was from Teoscar Hernandez, and that was in the fifth
Hmm.
inning. There was a double
Yep.
off the wall. I realized that, but let the man finish the inning. Let the man go 7 strong. Let the man show the home team, the home crowd, like, hey, this is how I deal with things. And in the words of Nicolas Cage, in my own backyard. This, like, I want it so much for Garrett Cole to finish that seventh inning, that sixth inning,
Hmm.
seventh inning. But Aaron Boone, of course, he's got to be fired. I'm surprised he wasn't fired already.
He's
I,
not. That's the
I,
thing,
I
and we talked about this before. It's not. It's not. There's no way it's going to happen. How do you fire a coach that took finally gets over the hump and gets you to the World Series. The expectation for him was get us to the World Series. If it happened, it's just I understand what you're saying management wise, but it's just not going to happen because they made the World Series. It's just not. And a lot of the things that went wrong, besides that kind of situation stuff that you were talking about, a lot of it really wasn't on him. There was really game one with the bullpen rotation, and then the game five. Most of it was just their defense, and then their offense just going cold. You can't really manage an offense in the moment like that. This isn't football where you can change play calls. I don't see it. That's
I'm not
that's
saying that. I'm saying so either he doesn't get fired or he at the very least fires. I don't know who the third base coach is in New York, but that dude's got to go. That dude's got to go. And there's just there's and I'm gonna relate this. I'm gonna relate this to something the Cubs did today. The Cubs hired Quentin Barry, who was
yep.
Craig Counsell's first base coach in Milwaukee. They hired him to be the third base coach and the running game coordinator, which I appreciate because there's a there's a there's an acronym in baseball called Tootbland, thrown out on the base paths like a nincompoop. Okay, so the Cubs, I think, led the league in Tootblands, right? And so they went out and they fired Willie. Was it Willie Harris? They fired Willie Harris, who I love, I adore, but they fired him because he made a lot of questionable calls, sending runners to home plate. And if you and even just whoever the running game court, whoever it is that's out there teaching, and maybe that's the first base coach. Honestly, they both need to go because whoever sent Jazz Chisholm when Juan Soto was tagging up, if Jazz Chisholm is
Oh yeah.
thrown out at second base, that run doesn't count. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do like this. It just like I said, just like you said, we've hammered this. It's the little things. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot let the little things beat you. You have to do those well. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in the
Yeah.
World Series, that's it. It doesn't matter if you have 94 wins. Don't matter if you got 98 wins. It don't matter. If you do the little things well, this is why the Rangers ended up winning the World Series last year. They did everything well. This is why the Diamondbacks made it to the World Series last year as a wild card. They did everything well, well enough to the ability that they had on that roster. You cannot, you cannot let the little things beat you. Those are the
Yep.
things in your control. You control
Mm-hmm.
those things. So either Aaron Boone gets fired or Aaron Boone cleans house with
He
his
should.
coaching
That
staff.
I agree. Cleaning house, at least a couple of the position coaches have to go for the same reasons that you've highlighted. There's no other. There has to be something that happens because you can't just do the same thing next year and expect better results. I don't expect Aaron Boone to be fired. So by default, he has to pull the trigger on saying where did we go wrong. The people that were in charge of making those corrections or
Yeah.
those moves have to go because you failed me.
Yeah. So, but like I said, also kudos to the Dodgers. $1 billion well spent. Well done. And I'm hearing a lot of people today being like, "Oh man, if Juan Soto goes to the Dodgers, that'd be a travesty to baseball." No one said this in the '90s when everyone was going to the Yankees. We're just playing with monopoly money now. It's just more
Yeah.
money. All it is more money. It's the same caliber of stars going to the Yankees. It's just more money now because inflation. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the going rate of putting butts in seats. That's it.
Yep.
And if Juan Soto
Yeah.
goes to
I
LA, okay, fine. He goes to LA, whatever. That's on the other teams. That's on the 29 other general managers who didn't do enough to try to get who I've already called the greatest player in the game today
yeah.
to come to your team. It's your fault. It's your fault for not doing what you should have.
Yeah. I hope that they do everything that they can to keep Juan Soto, because I mean, it was a perfect season for him, and it just highlighted the fact that he is a key piece, and it was just poetry seeing him fit into that offense, and I hope the Yankees front office sees that what that team was doing was not happening, and then Juan Soto was just adding to it. I hope they realize that a lot of what the offense was doing was being driven by Juan Soto's dominance at the plate nonstop. So I hope they do everything they can to keep him and realize that he is the best piece that they need to keep to make sure that they have any kind of chance to get close to a World Series again next year. And I want to highlight one more positive note about the World Series, which is hard for me to find. I am happy that when Garrett Cole finally got taken off the mound, he got a standing ovation by Yankees fans. Even after the fifth inning that happened, I by them giving him a standing ovation, I think everybody realized that the fifth inning that happened was not Garrett Cole's fault. There was ample opportunities for his defense to have his back. And I'm glad that the fans didn't take it out on him, blaming him for not getting the strikeouts, which was really the only thing that the pitcher can take care of defensively on his own. Everything else, you obviously need the rest of your team to help you out with. I'm just really glad that they didn't take it out on Garrett Cole and acting like it was his fault that they were losing that game at that point.
Yeah, because he did nothing other than not following his assignment to run the first base, which
Yeah,
I cannot fathom. That dude did not give up. I mean, he was cruising through. I mean, it would not have surprised me outside of an Aaron Boone doing an Aaron Boone thing if Garrett Cole just pitched a complete game last night. It would that he
yeah,
was so dominant. They were getting the first hit the Dodgers had didn't come until that fifth inning. That was the first
yeah,
hit he allowed. And he had allowed, I think, only one walk up until that point. So
yep,
he was giving up nothing. And the only hard contact he gave up was at the very end of that fifth inning when Teoscar Hernandez hit that double off the wall. That was the
hmm,
only hard contact that he gave
yeah,
up.
yeah,
He was locked in last night. He was
yep.
locked in, and it's just
Yeah,
it
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 sucks. It sucks for him because he did everything he could to make sure the Yankees had an opportunity, and I really, if there was what, everything had to go wrong, and if one of those things that went wrong would have gone right, we would be having a whole different conversation right now about what to expect in Game 6. That's all it
yep,
would have needed. That's it. It breaks
yep,
my heart that him having a great performance wasn't good enough because all year, in a way, there was a hard the goalpost was set very far for Garrett Cole this year. The expectations were very far for him, considering he missed almost half of the year. That he had to
yeah,
be a dominant pitcher, and that he didn't really have that as soon as he came
mhm,
back. So the goalpost was
yeah,
being set really hard for him, or really far for him throughout the entire regular season and the postseason, and he showed up. And that's what sucks the most about the way that that series ended is that your all-star pitcher that was supposed to do his pitching job to make sure you can win games. He did that, and it wasn't enough because everybody else didn't do their part. That's what sucks
yeah,
about that.
yeah. Oh, but alas, the World
Congratulations,
Series is
Dodgers. I'm
over.
not gonna be a salt. I'm not gonna be a salty Yankees fan and say whatever. I know I hate on the Dodgers nonstop, but I will give the Dodgers their flowers as I did when I was on my soapbox. You did everything right. Your
Mhm.
roster did what your roster was built to do. Your batting was on point whenever you needed bats on balls. No matter who was at the plate, you could trust that they were going to get bats on balls, no matter what, no matter how down they were or what the situation was. They did everything that they
Yeah,
were built to do, and they deserved the win. As a Yankees fan, it breaks my heart. It's been a while since I saw one of my teams make the championship of any
yeah,
of the leagues. So as a Yankees fan, it hurts that it happened this way. But as a sports fan, I'm happy. I can give the Dodgers the kudos for them actually pulling off something
yeah,
really awesome, which is a complete full
yeah,
roster that really did got the job done
yeah,
in the most efficient way possible. It was
yeah,
good for them.
absolutely.
I can't. There's nothing for me to hate on the Dodgers at this point. There's really nothing that I
Yeah.
can talk crap on.
They did everything well in the offseason with the free agents, with the trades. That includes
Hmm.
Glass now, but And I'm hoping that this is a blueprint for the other 29 teams to go out there, and not just my Cubs, but every team, go out there,
Yep.
spend
Yep.
the money,
Yep.
bring in the star power. It
Mm-hmm.
matters. It matters
Yep.
because even though Shohei was far from the best player in this series, every single pitcher respected Shohei's ability to change the game with one crack of the bat. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
You know what? That's my one thing that I'm not happy about. Shohei's getting all this attention for being a champion, and I'm sure Shohei, congratulations, you're on a championship team. But let's not sit here. Everybody keeps acting like Shohei was the reason they won the World Series. Maybe regular season he secured them the number one seed, but I'm tired of the players that actually got the success not getting the attention. Everything on social media is about Shohei on top of the mountain. Shohei was drugged to the top of the mountain once the World Series started. Let's give the right people the right attention. Freddie Freeman, I hated him as it was happening, but God, that guy knows freaking how to play offense, and give that guy his
Yeah.
flowers. Meeks, everybody,
Yeah.
give everybody else their flowers. Quit making it seem like Shohei is any kind of had any kind of all-star performance. That's stressing me out currently.
Yeah, I will defend Shohei in this. It wasn't as if he disappeared because his talent just got zapped. He dislocated his shoulder.
No, I
The
know.
dude dislocated his shoulder, and and the next game he was out there. They had a scheduled off day. He was out there on Monday,
Yeah,
and he didn't miss a game. And so to that, I credit him.
yeah.
And
No, I'm not
let's not
hating on him.
forget,
I'm just saying don't
yeah,
don't give him
yeah,
credit.
and I mean, you give him some credit, I think, because I mean his numbers were lights out with runners in scoring position. His RISPY was off the charts. When I mean, yeah, you can say what you want about when no one was on. I mean, I think he was like an offer when no one was on. But when
Hmm.
runners were scoring position, when the moment mattered, I mean, he delivered. He delivered big throughout the NLDS and NLCS. So, from
Yeah, okay.
what
I
his
shouldn't.
second at bat from game one of the DS all the way through the NLCS, the dude delivered. And if I'm not mistaken, the play he dislocated the shoulder, didn't he drive in a run? I think that
No,
was.
I think he
I
was
think
stealing. I think he was stealing second. He was stealing second
was
base
he
when
stealing
he.
second? Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, I
But
mean, look, the dude deserves his credit. He does.
no,
He deserves.
I phrased it. I phrased it wrong. I shouldn't say. I should say there's other people that deserve more of the attention, considering the way that they won the World Series. That is all I'm saying. I'm not taking anything away from Shohei. There's just other people that deserve additional attention. I'll put it that way without taking anything from him. But on
Well,
that note,
I can tell you who doesn't care about not getting attention.
everybody that
that's the 25 other Dodgers who, because they just won the World Series,
yeah,
they
they
can
don't
give a
care.
damn
They don't care
about
what
it.
social media posts. That's right. I know. I
Yeah.
know. It's just one of those things where it frustrates me. Like, I don't know. It's a small thing, but I know they're all gonna get the same ring, so it doesn't matter. Nobody really
Yeah.
cares, and I think everybody knows the attention that he gets, and the press and social media knows what type of posts and what not to post to get the most attraction. So I get it. It's not a big
Mhm.
deal. It's just a small deal. If that's what I can talk crap about, I mean, I think the Dodgers will be okay.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to another sport.
Yes,
I think it's fitting um, that the New York Football Jets are playing tonight.
they are.
Um, they are, and
They are indeed.
if I'm not mistaken, there's a guy named Aaron Rodgers who is who's the quarterback of that Jets team. And for some reason, you know, he's you know he's not in the spotlight. You know, it's week. We're going to the week 9. The Jets are below 500, and their quarterback play is just awful. And I bet you're wondering, yeah, we know that, JB, but no, I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about last year. I'm talking about last year when Zach Wilson was the quarterback of the New York Jets, and everyone threw hot garbage at him because like, oh, boo, Zach Wilson. How dare you not be great like our savior Aaron Rodgers? Well,
If we
look at
had
where we are
Aaron
now.
Rodgers,
Look where we are now. Week 9.
yeah,
Jets are under 500. The quarterback play is extremely suspect. And I get it. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's done well for his entire career. I mean, what he's done in the past is nothing to sneeze at. I get it. I absolutely understand it. But to sit there and to say that Aaron Rodgers is not the problem here is just asinine. He's the one that brought in Nathaniel Hackett. He's the one that brought him in to run the offense, which is non-existent. He's the one, Aaron Rodgers brought all his friends. Aaron Rodgers has friends in low places, and you know what? He's bringing them lower. He brought them lower. It's bad. It's bad. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't get any. He seems not to escape any of the blame for this. I don't, Manny. Do you have a reason, like some sort of a logic behind this?
I can only make one excuse for him, and it's not a very strong excuse. His line has been very suspect uh, at the same level that he has played at a suspect level. But that being said, when he was with the Packers, he didn't have the greatest of offensive lines his entire Packers career. And he made magic when magic shouldn't be happening, and he was making plays that no other quarterback could make because he was Aaron Rodgers. Any other quarterback in the Packers system with the pieces and the line that they had throughout the years that he was there would have completely failed. But he was Aaron Rodgers, so he made every bad play look good because of his off scripting and all that stuff. So his line is on par to some of the worst lines that he had with the Packers. So I can't even make that strong of an excuse for it. But that is the one thing that I can point my finger to. But even then, they worked. One of their key offseason moves was to bring in linemen, and I know for a fact that he had some say in who they brought in. So if the line is not playing up to par, you have to take some accountability, Aaron Rodgers, because we know you're calling some of the shots in that organization. So if it's not good enough, it's your fault. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I can make sense of it. He has all his pieces. He brought they now now Lazard is out now, but he had all his players that he wanted. He had every type of offense that he wanted, and he just can't get the job done. So it's frustrating for me to see that every time that he has a presser after their second straight loss and the third straight loss and now their fifth straight loss, that everybody else the system is a problem, and we were a couple plays from winning that game, but there's never him saying I was the reason that we were those couple of plays from winning that game, which it really is. If you watch their games, it constantly is Aaron Rodgers not making the plays that everybody is accustomed to seeing Aaron Rodgers make. It
Yeah.
bothers me that he can't take accountability for that aspect of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I you know I it's and I root for Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greatest to ever play the position, hands down. I mean, he's he will go down as one of the best to ever play it. But to sit there and to pretend as if this is, even 20, this is end of his Packers tenure, Aaron Rodgers, is ridiculous. I mean, it's not. This is a different guy, and
Yeah.
he has done nothing, I think, in my opinion, to uh, to harm his on-field play with just how loud his off-the-field persona has become.
Yep.
And he was probably already extremely eccentric with Green Bay. We just didn't even know anything about it. And then toward
Probably.
the end of his career, Green Bay, he was probably doing silent retreats the whole time. Probably just going in his pantry with a box of yo-yos or ho-hos, and sitting in there just chowing down on some moon pie and RC cola. and no one knew anything about it. Couldn't find him. He was locked in the pantry.
Hmm.
But toward the end of his
But
time at Green Bay, that's when all this started. Like it's just the moment. It seemed like the moment they drafted Jordan Love, he went out of his way to remind people he was still a quarterback in the NFL. And we're like, Aaron, we know that. We know you're the quarterback. We get it. Yeah,
yeah,
we see you every Sunday.
yep, yeah. But you never know. His last press conference, he mentioned how he's been introduced to the cayenne pepper and water elixir of life that he's going to now be drinking before his games to make sure that he's on par. So we'll see if his cayenne pepper remedy makes him makes him a better quarterback starting today.
All right, Cortez. I just, I yeah. It. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was just going to ask you if you had actually heard about that because that blew my mind when I saw that.
I
I
hadn't heard that. The last I heard was that he was blaming the media for people believing how bad he was. I'm like, no, we have eyes.
yeah,
I don't, well, I don't need the news to tell me. Okay, I have eyes. My eyeballs are are my media outlets. Okay,
yeah.
that's what I'm seeing. Right?
Typical Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, that was his thing this week. That I can't remember who exactly, but it was a punter. He said that this punter had introduced him to the elixir of life, and he was now going to be drinking cayenne pepper and water.
Probably Pat
To
McAfee. That
no, it
dude's a
wasn't Pat. I would
whack
remember
job.
it was Pat McAfee. I I wouldn't be surprised if it was him, but it wasn't him this time, and it blew my mind. Like that's you are struggling for answers if you're now drinking cayenne pepper and water to find solutions. That's how
Yeah.
that's how you
That's
know.
what my sisters and mom did because they refused to accept that it had everything to do with what they were eating.
Yeah.
So, what do you mean
You
it's my diet? No, that's ridiculous. No. I need
no.
cayenne
I just
pepper
need to drink
and
yeah.
water and maple syrup.
I
Like,
just need
all
to drink
right.
more apple cider vinegar every day. I need to drink all my meals with
Yeah.
apple cider vinegar. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The solution to all my bad habits is another bad habit. Yeah, let me do
exactly.
that. Yeah, but
Exactly.
I thought of this question because this I had heard this about a month ago. It might have been on Colin Cowherd, but um, and it just as a thought exercise, right? So we see Aaron Rodgers and they're playing today. They're playing tonight against Houston. God bless
Yep.
them. But uh, you know, we we spent years, a decade, blaming a current star quarterback for his play with his former team and him being the reason why they didn't go far enough in the playoffs or saying he wasn't good enough to do it. Um and Matthew Stafford seems to be doing pretty well as the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams. Um uh, the question as a thought exercise purely is if we went about it today, who would we say is the better quarterback? Matthew Stafford or Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, st- oh, you can't even say statistically because I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I feel like even those are closer than people would expect. I don't. A solid answer is hard to find, which kind of tells you the type of response that tells you
Yeah,
everything you need to know because
yeah.
Stafford got traded away because the team was in rebuild mode, and
Mhm.
all he did was instantly make his team way better
Yeah.
than the team. The storylines are almost
Mhm.
symmetrical. The Packers and the Lions at the time when they were looking into new quarterback regimes were both on a quote unquote rebuild mode. The Packers not so much, Detroit for sure. And
Yeah.
everybody said those teams need just a new quarterback, being the Rams and the Jets. And they got their quarterback. One quarterback is doing symmetrical production to the quarterback that he was supposed to be replacing in Zach Wilson, and the other one instantly took his team to the Super Bowl. So one of those stories was right. That team was indeed
Mm-hmm.
a system quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. The other one, not so much. So based off of that alone, I would have to say Stafford at this point. The Super Bowls are equal. The success is pretty on par. Being
Yeah.
able to switch teams and still maintain that success would be the last deciding factor that I would have to wait on,
Yeah.
a la Tom Brady leaving the Patriots and still winning a Super Bowl with a new team. That is kind of the
Yeah.
bar that I'm setting with great quarterbacks moving and then still having
Yeah.
success.
Yeah, I would partly agree to that. Statistically, Rodgers still holds the mantle on that one throughout throughout the careers, and Rodgers has been doing it for what 5 years longer, I think, but 4 years if you don't count last year. But it was I asked the question because the the Rams paid a premium price to bring in Stafford, a premium, which goes to show just how well his production was in Detroit.
Yeah,
There just wasn't anything there for him, and it was such a badly run organization before Dan Campbell got there. And Dan Campbell knew that he wanted to start fresh with another quarterback. And granted, when they brought Goff in, they probably were thinking this is a bridge guy until we can find our guy to come in here,
little
and
did
they
they
didn't
know.
find that guy. Jared Goff actually exploded, and my preseason pick for NFL MVP is shining bright. So it was, but the price that LA paid to bring Stafford in was quite hefty, and it worked for them because they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But just from I don't know the past 4 years or so, Stafford has just over like just over exceeded the production of Aaron Rodgers. And like I said, at the end of the day, I think Aaron Rodgers is still going to be considered the better quarterback. I'm going to be honest here. I honestly think he is. I just think people's memory of him is going to be tied so much to the consistent success of Green Bay. Even though they went to that one Super Bowl and they won it 11 years ago. But it was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even at the end of the day, I think Aaron Rodgers still gets the bump over Stafford. But I asked the question because I think it's important for us as sports fans to constantly be the doubting Thomas. But are we sure that he's better than Stafford? Are we sure that
That's
he's
why
still
I'm
better
making
than
the
the better
faces.
quarterback?
That's why I'm making those faces. Like you can actually sit here and have a pretty in-depth conversation and look at their careers, and I would have a hard time making that clear-cut decision because you have to think about what Aaron Rodgers did when he was with the Packers. He took, like
Mhm.
you said, he took him to a Super Bowl, but then after that, everybody was judging him because he couldn't elevate his team to get them to the
Yeah,
hump. It was constantly underperformances in the playoffs, uh, low scoring games, not coming in clutch. The 49ers always finding a way to beat him. Like those conversations were happening for a few years before he left the Packers, and then you flip it, you mirror it on the other side. The expectation was very low with Stafford with his Lions tenure, but then he's been
yeah,
with the Rams for the last, what is it, 3 4 years? This is his fourth
yeah,
year there, and it's
yeah,
like the exact same thing. He got them to a Super Bowl. He made sure they won that Super Bowl, and then he's getting them to a playoffs. And now the expectation is, are you going to be able to get them over the hump
yeah,
regularly to
yeah,
continue to make Super Bowl
mhm,
runs? That it's
yeah.
it's very close to where you wouldn't think that it should be that close.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you bring up a valid point in the sense of if you look at just if you have if you can somehow bring yourself to a recency bias of how Matthew Stafford has been compared to Aaron Rodgers, but I think at the end of the day, most people are going to pick Aaron Rodgers because of the accolades, because of the MVPs, because of the Pro Bowls. I
Yeah.
think what was it? Matthew Stafford has made 2 Pro Bowls versus Aaron Rodgers 10.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is a 5-time All Pro, a 4-time All Pro MVP, and a Super Bowl MVP. Stafford um, has achieved none of that. So I think if but that just goes to like, okay, but you have to go back as a sports fan and look at who was Stafford with. He was with the Detroit Lions. The
Yeah.
Detroit Lions. I remember that, what was it? 2011, 2012, when Stafford led the Lions to the playoffs, and
Yeah.
every Lion fan lost their mind.
Yep.
Their ever loving mind. And now, I mean, they lost to the Saints in that first round, but it just reminded me of just how much hope everyone had, and then at the balloon just deflated because
Yeah.
nothing happened after that. Absolutely nothing happened. So, but
He
I
led them to
just
the playoff twice in a years where they were. I mean, all his entire tenure with the Lions, the bar was set so low, and yet I want to say he led them to the playoffs twice because clearly remember one playoff game against the Cowboys where they matched up in the wild card, and there was some
mm,
outrageous call that ultimately let the Cowboys win the game. It was like some defensive PI that was not necessarily supposed to happen. But even that year, they should have not made the playoffs, and he made them relevant. So that
yeah,
argument still stands that he made a below mediocre, not a rebuilding team and not a mediocre team, but somewhere in the middle. That
yeah,
level of team, he was finding a way to carry them to the playoff.
yeah. No, and it is just it's such a shame because I believe if Matthew Stafford is on a Lions squad that's coached by Dan Campbell, that team is unstoppable. It is unfreaking stoppable. And Jared Goff, I mean, he's still relatively young, and he's still learning the game. And
Yeah,
so Jared Goff, I believe, is only going to get better. And Matthew Stafford's in a cush position. I mean, let's not sit there and sneeze at the fact that Sean McVay's his head coach, but it's you know I just think that Stafford does well wherever I think Stafford can do well wherever he goes. I think he can do well, and I think the ultimate question is, well, we already know what Matthew Stafford would do if he was on the New York Jets. He was already on the New York Jets. They were called the Detroit Lions, and for years. So we already saw what that's going to be. But I think the true thing here is, okay, Aaron Rodgers leaves, takes his monster money to be with the Jets, and what do we have to show for it? We have a one loss season, and now we're 2-6. So, and not to say that them beating Houston tonight isn't insurmountable. I mean, Houston has really started to, I don't know, to me, shown signs of flailing lately. So, but I mean,
well,
Stephon Diggs is on
they're
the
beat up.
IR. Stephon Diggs is
Yep.
on the IR, so maybe Houston will get
Yeah,
better. I don't know. But I,
that's not where I thought you were going to take that.
but I think everyone at this point who's listened to this podcast understands my feelings for Stephon Diggs. I think
That's true. I shouldn't have been surprised. I still get caught off guard by your
he
stances
he
sometimes.
he just, I mean, he's a really good receiver, but I think he overinflates himself way too much. His importance to a team is completely, he just overinflates it. But so we'll see what happens with the Jets. I don't know, when another Packer great went quarterback the Jets, Brett Favre, back in what, '09. Um,
Yep.
that Jets team was great in the first half, and then just you know deflated in the second half. Maybe it'll be the
Hmm.
inverse. I don't know. I mean, the AFC East is far from decided. It's far from decided, and Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we can see what he can do. I mean, it's just he's got to let. He's like Linus with his blanket. He's got to let go of his securities, and he's got to tell Hack Job. I'm sorry, Hackett. I keep doing that. He's got to tell Nathaniel Hackett to stop. Just give me the playbook. Let me run the plays. Let me run the plays. I'm on the field. I'll take care of it. Let me do it.
Mhm.
So, um, so maybe the cayenne pepper will add some spikes to that offense. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But before we depart the pod, I want to talk about one other quarterback, someone that I have defended on this pod a
Dak
lot.
Prescott?
Dak Prescott? No, no, not even close. No,
You've never
no.
defended him at never once.
Yeah, yeah. I've defended his ability to fleece money out of an organization, but I've never defended his ability on the field ever because,
No.
it's hard to come by. I have not seen it quite some time. So, but I
True.
will. Uh, isn't it funny how when CD Lamb is on, Dak Prescott's on. When CD Lamb's off, Dak Prescott is like, "Where's he go? What happened to him? Here we go. Here we go. Wait, CD, where'd you go? Where'd you go, CD? I don't see you. Where'd you go?" So so no, I want to talk about Anthony Richardson. So Anthony Richardson is 22 years old. He's still so young. He's the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL today. Super
Yep.
young.
Yep.
And he's 4 years younger than the rookie Bo Nix, only because Bo Nix spent 13 years in college. But he played for Bo Nix played for every Power Five conference, and he finally made it in the first round. Wasn't even a top 10 pick still. But
Yep.
Anthony Richardson is 22, the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL. He didn't have a full season last year because he was hurt. He's had his ups and downs this year because of injuries and inconsistencies in the passing game. I was very disappointed in the fact that he admits to the whole world that he's not a grown man yet. Oh, I got tired. I'm tired. I'm coming out. I'm exhausted. I need a break. My kids tell me all the time, "Daddy, you're sick. You should stay home." My exact response to them, "I don't have time to be sick. I have a job to do." Now, I'm not the quarterback of, I'm not one of the 30 quarterbacks in the NFL. I get that. But I mean, this is something a 22-year-old has to understand. I don't give a damn if you're tired. Who cares? You fake it, bro. You fake it. Now, I will say I appreciate Shane Steichen for coming out and saying, "No, Joe Flacco's our quarterback," because there's no way you can defend saying Richardson's still our starter, defend that to the other 52 men on the roster when I'm sure they're sure as hell tired. Ask their defense. I'm sure they're tired of being on the field for so long because the offense have been so anemic. I'm sure they're exhausted. But
Yeah.
what I find, this is why I bring it up. Okay. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. I find it interesting that it took for Anthony Richardson to tag himself out because he's tired for everyone to suddenly realize how bad his numbers at quarterback have been. I don't understand how no one saw this until he took himself out because he's tired. I mean, it help this make sense. Okay, make it make sense, Manny. Make it make sense.
I can't help you on that one. I mean, the statistics have not been something to write home about since week one. I remember stats where I want to say week one he was 9 for 19 for 200 yards, but 70 or 80 of those yards were on a bomb play, and pretty much what 2-3 games that he's actually played, he's got done a double digit completions. Like, it's not something that has been under the radar for us common folk. I mean, I've noticed it. It's
Yeah.
been underwhelming for a player like that to to not do his job. I understand he's a running quarterback, but Jesus Christ, it's not. You can't hide statistics. There were if there's always this thing where you say your team is winning because of your quarterback, and then there's a team that is winning despite their quarterback play. If there's ever an embodiment of that second stands where your team is winning despite your quarterback play, it is Anthony Richardson. They were winning. They're competitive. He was. He has 30 completions in the year. Like, give me a break. There's not. It's not whose mind are we
Yeah.
blowing right now that he was not playing good? It's not. It's
Yeah.
not a secret.
Yeah. Yeah. I sat here last week when I did the pod, and I said that if Joe Flacco can prove himself serviceable in order to help the Colts win,
Mhm.
and even if Richardson came back healthy, you still sit Richardson. You sit him. You start Flacco. You
Yep.
let Richardson learn from Joe Flacco. Let him learn. Let him learn from what's the Delaware mascot? I mean, what is it? The
The Delaware.
Minutemen? It's like a bird. I don't even know what it is. I'm gonna look it
No
up.
idea. The Delaware
I'm gonna
mascot.
look it up. But I sat here and I said that if uh if if Joe Flacco proves himself to be able to help the Colts win, um, the Fighting Blue Hens, that's what it is. So
Oh,
because
nice.
I mean, I think
It's
in Albuquerque we
Delaware.
call those peacocks, but we so the Delaware Peacocks. Um, no, we but I sat here and said if Joe Flacco is the best chance to win, leave him in. Let Richardson learn behind Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco played admirably. They put Richardson back out there. And it's a blessing in disguise that Richardson showed his immaturity. I want to say his immaturity. He showed his age. He's
Right.
22. He showed
Yeah.
his age. And um and so so being able to do that and then making the decision easy for Shane Steichen to say, okay, you know what? Joe Flacco's our quarterback moving forward. Because I sat here until I was blue in the face and said the one team I'm excited about seeing for the next 3 to 4 years are the Indianapolis Colts. I'm excited to see this team. This team is going to go places. Okay, Chris
Yep.
Ballard is a great GM. Shane Steichen is the missing piece to Nick Sirianni's competence. I think he's the only piece of Nick Sirianni's competence. And so Shane Steichen is taking it with him. And I so the Colts have a good thing going here. They have a really good thing going. And Joe Flacco, I mean, we remember what he did with who was it? Was it Cleveland last
Cleveland.
year?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean, he gave Cleveland hope.
They made them.
How dare you
They
give
got to the playoffs. What do you mean
I
hope?
know he
They
gave him
got
hope.
success.
How? I mean, don't give Cleveland hope. How dare you? So he broke a cardinal rule in sports. You don't give Cleveland hope ever. And
Yeah.
so Joe Flacco is far from done. I mean, you harken back to when Matt Ryan came to Indianapolis. Oh, Matt Ryan's going to save our franchise. Matt Ryan couldn't get to the CBS booth fast enough. I mean, he was just like, I was distracted. I'm coaching my son's football team. It's a lot going on. So yeah, playbook. I don't know it anymore. So, but Joe Flacco, I mean, I mean, talk about a mercenary. I mean, this dude, he can go anywhere, and he can help you win. He can because Joe
Yeah.
Flacco doesn't make mistakes. He can help you win. Joe Flacco understands he's a game manager. He's not there to win the game for you. Someone's screaming back there. He's I'm sorry, that threw me off. He is there. He's there to help you win the game and make sure he doesn't lose the game for you. And so
Yep.
I actually hope the Jets win tonight because I want Indianapolis to still have that hope that they can win. The only way the Colts make it to the playoffs is they win a division. The only way anyone from the AFC South makes the playoffs is if they win the division. That's it.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
and right now it's absolutely between Indianapolis and Houston. So,
Mm-hmm.
so all the power to Shane Steichen, Joe Flacco, the Colts organization. That was a good call by Shane Steichen. But
Yeah.
yeah, it befuddled me. They're like, yeah, did you see just how bad Anthony Richardson's stats are? Yeah, we all saw it. Yeah, we saw it. But we were all just making a play for him to be on the field so he can keep growing. But I think even now, being 22 on the sideline behind Joe Flacco, he can learn just as much. He can probably learn
Yep.
more
Yep.
watching Flacco play.
That's true. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I've said it multiple times. No quarterback, no young quarterback has ever gotten worse behind sitting and watching a veteran play the position.
Yeah.
That's never happened. You can look it up. You will never find a quarterback that sat for a year or just sat and watched a good quarterback or a competent quarterback play and then got onto the field and
Yeah.
was worse than where they
Yeah.
were. It's not a thing. Anthony
It's not.
Richardson needs to
Yeah.
take this opportunity to learn how to be a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
If you can get to Joe Flacco's level, that is a good level to be at.
Yep.
I'm not saying Joe Flacco was like the epitome of when elite started becoming like a no word to
Mhm.
call quarterbacks because
Yeah.
nobody believed he was elite. But he's
No.
damn good for who he is. And if you can
Yeah.
get to that level at 22, 23 by next year, there's
Mhm.
no telling where you could
Yeah.
get in the future. It's
Yeah.
that simple. And
Yeah.
I don't know I can't remember how many games he's played, Anthony Richardson being. But I know when they drafted him, there was a concern that professionally or semi-professionally in college, he'd only played like
He only
10
played a whole
total.
season. He only played
Yeah,
one
it was
season at Florida. That was it.
yeah.
And they took him with the fourth overall pick.
Yeah, so that was always a concern. It's just now in your face that like, oh shit, we have a quarterback in front of us that doesn't have the experience to actually make it to the professional level where we have
Yeah.
multi-million, $200 million quarterbacks that have played 6-8 years semi to
Yeah.
professional level quarterback play.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the NFL,
Yeah.
the Indianapolis Colts. You have a young quarterback. Let him learn.
Yeah.
That's all I
Homeboy,
have to say.
Homeboy is 22. He has played in 10 games total. That's it. 10 games.
That's what I thought.
So he's got so much to learn. And, just a caveat to your point, you know, no quarterback has ever gotten worse by sitting behind an older experienced quarterback. No young quarterback ever has. You can look
Mm-mm.
at Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Favre, Love sitting behind Rodgers, and whoever the Packers draft in 12 years, they're going to sit behind Jordan Love, whatever.
Yep.
So, but you look at Anthony Richardson, his skill set is that of a higher level than Joe Flacco, but Anthony Richardson's problem is he's still so young. He's almost got no control over his own body. He's just going out there and he's just slinging it. He's just running it with no regard to really anything that's happening. He doesn't have that awareness yet. If he can get that Joe Flacco awareness
Mm-hmm.
paired with his ability to change the game uh with his natural talent, man, this is why I'm excited to see the Colts.
He can still be
This is why.
really good. This is not a
He
Bryce Young
can.
story by any means. This is not,
No,
and
not
no
even close.
disrespect to Bryce Young, but this is not the equivalent of Bryce Young getting benched. This is Anthony Richardson being way too young to be a starter and way too
Yeah.
inexperienced to be in command of an entire offense. And for those people that don't know, NFL offenses are not a simple thing. They have so many levels to their playbook, so many things that they put on the quarterback's shoulders. That's why the quarterback is so important and why they pay them 25% of their salary right now, because they rely on those people, on those guys to really carry that team on both. If you think about it, both sides of the ball depend on what the quarterback is, how they're playing. So for asking that for a guy that has 10 games under his belt of professional football, that is might as well I might as well go try out for an NFL team right
Yeah.
now because that's almost about the same.
You try out for the Panthers. They probably use you. So
Yeah, very true.
well, Manny,
Oh,
welcome back. What a great
thank you.
first pod being reunited, even though it
Yes,
was only after 1 week. So I think I
felt
think
like
all our
forever.
travels I think all our travels are done for the foreseeable
Hmm.
future. So we'll get back on the regular schedule of Thursday nights. So you guys can wake up Friday mornings and still just stay in bed cozy. Just, unfortunately looking at our ugly mugs because that's right. The video pods are on Spotify now and Apple and
Yeah,
Amazon and the
yeah,
YouTubes.
yeah.
So you're welcome, America. You're welcome. We did this for you. There was a vote. It was, only Manny and I filled out a ballot, but you know, it was unanimous. You can
Yes.
look at our faces. Yeah.
Executive decisions were made, and you are stuck with seeing our faces. No matter if we like it or not, we're doing this for you all. So check us
Yeah.
out on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok. Our faces are there. BS Sports
Mm-hmm.
24. Instagram. Our faces are also there. BS Sport
Yep.
20. BS Sports. BSB Sports 24. Spotify, YouTube, Amazon. You can see our gorgeous faces wherever you want to see our faces. So continue to check us out, and we will continue to film some great episodes of box scores and bourbons for you guys. On that note, JB,
Absolutely.
what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Basil Hayden. So I
Nice.
just opened it today. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Bartesian uh, coffee martini, changing it up a bit.
Oh, it's the Bartesian thing. Okay. Yeah, we
Hmm.
stayed at we stayed with an older couple that we're good friends with. They're renting a place in Taos right now, and they had a Bartesian there, and
Nice.
we partook in a drink or two.
Yes, the
So
greatest thing ever.
yeah, I think it's changed my wife's life. I think she definitely wants one now. Yeah.
Christmas gifts on the horizon.
Oh, geez, I just spent so much on boots. Ugh. On a one pair of boots, one
Yeah,
pair. Yeah.
yep. Boots aren't cheap.
No, they're not. That you know what else isn't cheap, folks? Your time. So until next time, folks, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone.